Hey everyone, welcome to the LIBERcast episode 86. And I want to thank everyone quickly. Thank you very much for being there and support the LIBERcast in your comments and your beautiful questions. And you're the pillars of the LIBERcast, the people who are there and share with me and share your time with me, and I appreciate it, and gratitude to you and all the people who were guests on the LIBERcast. You are all the pillars of it. So thank you everyone. So I'm part of the One Great Work Network. It's there. This is a aggregate of awesome people who shares incredible information about the occult psychology and occult traditions and a lot of different aspects of consciousness and mind control and things like that. So I suggest you to go see there. There's French people, there's Spanish people, there's English people, and it's incredible. Go see there. It's all free. You go there, it's free. So I suggest everyone to go see that, the onegreatworknetwork.com. So I have the honor to have Caroline Reilly once again to share her wisdom with us tonight about the shadow working. And shadow work is an ongoing work. You know, it's never completely done, and it's the transformative path to take for conscious people, for people who wants to be better and work on themselves. So I'm gonna bring up Caroline. Thank you for being there.
Appreciate Hi, Fred. How are you?
I'm doing great.
That's good to hear.
I just quickly, can you talk to us about a little bit how you stumble upon shadow working and how it affects your life?
So I guess I don't really know when I first started to awaken, because there have been various different times in my life when I did. But what I can say is that I had one of my biggest sort of spiritual awakenings back in 2012. It was actually the 21st of December 2012, when we're all kind of expecting the world to end. So I was kind of sitting there waiting for the world to end, and something happened at home. And I realized that I needed to heal myself. And so it was almost like a voice from God or a voice from within me. I said, I need to heal myself. I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I need to make a change. And it was really then that I started looking into lots of new age ideas and philosophy. And I had all the secret books, and I did all the manifestations, creative visualizations, meditations. I was there for all of it. And although it was useful, over time I realized that none of it was working. But around about the same sort of time, I was also looking into the World Trade Center, all the information about that. So that was really my first hint that the world wasn't quite as we would imagine it to be, or for me it wasn't anyway. And then I started looking into lots of other information. I just, through doing the meditations, I just had this will to want to learn more. And I started getting into the work of Santos Bonacci, his work on astrotheology. And then that led on to lots of other people. One of the main people that I was watching, though, was Michael Tsarian. And I have to say, initially, when I first saw his work, I couldn't get into it initially, and it was just because he kept coming up, and then in the end, he changed my life, and not just me, lots of other people as well. And he did this really brilliant podcast called War on Consciousness, and he also spoke about the work of Carl Jung. And so at that time, I was living in Ireland, in Tipperary, and I was looking to do a course, and because the course was going to push me out of my comfort zone. And so there were these two courses, and one of them was Jungian psychology, and there was another much cheaper course. And I should have taken the cheaper course, but I had a dream, and the dream showed me something about a mandala. And I had recently seen a documentary about Jung and his mandalas, and so I took it to be a sign. And so I did this course in Jungian psychology, and I felt really out of my depth initially, because there were doctors, there was a priest, there was a shaman, there was a lot of and therapists and stuff, and I didn't feel that I fitted in with these people. But anyway, I excelled at the course. I loved learning about Carl Jung's concepts. I made a lot of artwork through watching and learning about Carl Jung. And I went on to have a couple of art exhibitions based on Carl Jung's work. Sorry, not on Carl Jung's work, based on my shadow work, which was sort of based on Carl Jung's work. And I continue to watch Michael Tessarian and lots of other people who have been a great influence. One of them being Jordan Maxwell as well, Mark Passio, the usual bunch. There's a whole bunch of kind of, I guess, leaders in that arena in terms of information. And you take what you can. You take what's going to be good for you, and that's how I've done it. I've taken what I can from each of those great teachers. And some others as well that I can't remember their names, but this has been my journey. And so when I came back over to England, that was part of my shadow work was that I had to make a change in my life. And for me, that was one of the biggest changes, was moving back to England, where I'm from, and starting my life again. And so here I am. And I sent Michael Tessarian a link to my website at that time, and he was interested in my artwork. He asked me to come on Unslaved around the same time I had the Facebook group, and so I started like that. That's really how I started. And the Facebook group was really about supporting other people in their shadow work. And I think, although I know a lot, I'm interested in a lot of different subjects, I read a lot, I've also learned a lot from other people, from the people that I've served. So shadow work is just like you said, it becomes a way of life. It's not just like, you buy a 2-page booklet and you fill it out and it's finished. It's a way of dealing with life's inevitable challenges, and it becomes a way for you to kind of constantly be self-reflecting in life. And it's just a way of life. It becomes the way. And also, I've also found that most of the problems that we have in life, they also are the way. And I think actually that's a quote by Rumi, isn't it? That we're scared of our difficulties, but that's the way that we grow and we become who we have the potential to be. And that's the great work, I believe.
Yes, and I mean, we can all relate to that. All the people who went through shadow work, we can understand. At a certain extent, you can empathize with people. And I mean, my shadow work, it went organically. I didn't know much about Carl Jung, a little bit, I was but it went organically for me. I started to do it without knowing about it. And what brought me to shadow work was pain and confusion, and I was questioning everything. I come from a more how can I say that, more Satanist, a little Satanist mindset before. And before I realized, when I stumbled upon Jordan Maxwell, rest in peace, and Michael Tessarians and David Icke and Mark Passios and all these great people who brought me to question again, question my beliefs, question my habits, and question the way I was raised and how to behave and things like that. So it starts with the will to change for better. I mean, care is everything.
Did you say care? Did you
Yeah,
say care? Yeah.
yeah, care. I would like just take care and put it in like big, and because I think the source from your healing is from care, because you care. If you didn't care, you wouldn't do shadow work. And what and it's there's some things about shadow work that, I mean, people must know about it. People think that it's gonna be easy, that's gonna be happy-go-lucky, and you're and it's gonna be a a ride, you know, when you're going to the carnival and you're gonna laugh, and it's not that at all. It's a struggle, you know. I've happened to lately myself having a hard time with my shadow work, and it's a struggle, it's a fight, and you have to choose your fights, you know. Sometimes you uh, um, so not you, but I realize things, lies, deceptions about myself, about the world, and it can be hard, you know.
Hmm.
And being a conscious person is, it's not easy, because you're not gonna see only see the patterns inside yourself. You're gonna see it in your families, in different stratas of society. You're gonna see these patterns everywhere. It's like getting bigger, and it's infectious, you know. And shadow work is it's all about knowing thyself, you know. I think it's the coming back, the second birth. I think so. This maybe it's a little biblical term, but I like this for that, because it changed everything.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're right. It is, but it is, it's coming home to yourself, isn't it? But the thing is, I mean, I wouldn't be too hard on yourself either, because if you imagine, I mean, part of the work of shadow work is to unpeel the layers of our cultural and social conditioning.
Hmm.
And I'm particularly interested actually in the very strong formative effects of the parents in informing us, you know, informing their children. And a lot of the time it's not done maliciously. It's just that a lot of them probably didn't heal themselves anyway. Some parents are malicious. Some parents are, terrible mothers, terrible fathers, and some are
Hmm.
good, and some just hurt their children without wanting to, because they don't know any better. But whatever the situation, it's really important to go back into the childhood to find out how we were formed. But also, what I found is a lot of people want to hold on to that hatred and anger towards their parents as well, and to batter them over the head with it. And I don't think that's really useful to anyone. I think it's an important emotion to be true to. If there's anger and resentment and frustration, as there has been in my own life, but I think it's also really important to not hold on to it. There's a time and a place for suffering. The other thing I'll say, Fred, you were just saying about at the moment you really struggle, because it's very easy to see the darkness in other people, and it's very easy to see the darkness in our neighbour and in society.
Yes.
We can spend our life feeling really, really angry and frustrated with everything that's happening around us. It's much harder to see our own darkness. And
Hmm.
the people closest to us can sometimes see it, depending on how trustworthy they are and how much of projection they're putting on us as well. But they can usually see us, and so it's really important that we at least take heed to what the people around us say, who we trust. And it is a struggle. Life is a struggle, but it's gone like that. It's gone so quick, and so I lost a friend recently. A friend of mine passed away. She died suddenly, and she's only my age, and she has 3 children. And she's someone who would never be interested in any of this information. You could even call her an NPC, non-playing character, possibly. I've known her since I was 10. She was a sort of the earth kind of person, really lovely person. But just to that really kind of hit me hard. That at such a young age, she was only 45. Suddenly it's all gone. And then I was thinking, so what does she experience now? What does because I believe we are eternal. So I'm kind of thinking about all of this stuff now is going into my shadow work. So I'm thinking, all of this suffering that we have here, but then what's it all about? And why are we here? And I'm sorry, I'm going off onto another tangent, but I guess what I'm saying is that take the good that you can from the life that we have, And you know, as we've said, that the hard part is the way, and to try and find the joy as much as we can. And I know that you have some children, and I have children too, and it's that, for me, is where I find joy. And in nature, I'm sure that that's where you find your joy as well, because the nature is our nature. So yeah, there are so many different aspects, and when you've been looking into like esoteric and wisdom and spirituality and psychology, and you really try to understand the human condition, you end up on your ass. You know, you don't have any answers. You just have possibilities. You just have questions, more questions.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
although it's interesting, it doesn't take from the fact that we're here for a short time and we go, and we may or may not be back. I hope I don't come back, to be honest.
And I'm telling, I was talking about the darker side of the psyche,
Yeah.
and shadow work is actually, for me, has been I got exposed by myself. You
Mm-hmm.
know, there's some doors that you're gonna unlock during your shadow work that it's gonna bring back like hard stuff. You know, some stuff that you repress, anger, frustration, shame, things like that. And if you were humiliated during your life by your family, or things like that, it's gonna getting all up out of yourself, and you're gonna have to confront it. And the thing that I found peculiar, if I can use the term, is in one of my experiences that I unlocked one of these doors, I could feel it. I could smell, I could taste, I could, like, it was incredible how your
Mm-hmm.
brain is re-expressing itself in its own reaction, because it's a reaction. And all the stuff that was there, like, went into, like, it's just one shot, you feel it, you know. It's really tense. It has been tense for me, and it wasn't easy. It took me a month or so to get back
Mm-hmm.
from it. And afterward, I this is where the good stuff is. When you got over it, then you unlock something. You unlock something that you lost. You know, this deep connection with yourself and your nature. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you make contact with your children, your inner children,
Yeah.
and let it, like, have the emotion that it needs, the feeling that it needs to be, and not like stopping it or keeping it inside. And and for my experience personally, um, shadow work has sharpened my intuition.
Mm-hmm.
I became very intuitive, and I I I took a stoic side that I didn't have. You know, this it's not a wall. It's not something that it takes your emotions out of the context. It's a more logical,
Mm-hmm.
based on logic and rhetorics and things like that, and objective truth and things like that, that your emotion are away from for this time. Like, to explain it, it's like, when I don't have to live emotions, I'm not living emotions. When I need to, I live my emotion, and then I let them go through, and I let them go. And this is how I deal with this overcharge of emotions. Sometimes it's happening like nowhere, you know, instantly, and you're somewhere, and you got this feeling. I don't know how to explain this, but it starts from the brain, and you can feel the electricity. I don't know how I can explain this, but because it's a very intimate perception of it. It's an incredible feeling to be free from one of these bricks that you hold on to. It gives you freedom, because it gives you freedom of being, because you're not, before you go to shadow work, before you go the inner work, you're not yourself, you're someone else. And this is one of the things that I mean, I'm sure you would agree with that, Caroline, is that it's about self-respect and being willing to do the good thing,
Yeah.
and this self-empathy that we need,
Yeah.
and stop, and one of the things that Mark Passios bring up a lot is stop lying to yourself, and this is the one of the first thing
Yeah.
that
And it was such a revelation to me when I first went through that first bout of shadow work, when I first started and I was doing the course. I realized then that I had been telling myself lies, and then every time I'd get to the bottom of a lie, there'd be another one. Like I'd be making things up constantly, and I was so used to doing it. The thing is, when you study a lot of psychology, what you realize is a lot of those lies are self-preservation. Like, because when you're younger, you're at the mercy of the adults around you, and God forbid you're a child with someone or people who don't treat them with respect, or don't allow them their autonomy, their own individuality, don't allow them to separate from the parents. Then they end up being or at least, or if they're humiliated, they end up having to kind of put a wall up. And like you say, parts of yourself die that way. They're not dead completely, but they have to be kind of kept in, because it's not safe to show those parts of you. So like with your emotions, you were saying about, that it sounds like you've got a really good sort of balance of masculine and feminine, actually, because what you're saying is that when you feel emotions, you're intuitive enough to know that you're going to have your emotional experience, and that you, in a stoic kind of way, you allow yourself the freedom to it, but at the same time you also put a stop at the end of it, because there are some people that may not know that to feel the emotion doesn't mean that you lie down dead and you don't stand up again. There are some people will end up doing that because they're so used to being that victim. And this is another thing, another really big sort of key player in that whole healing process, is that you get rid of the victim mentality. And I see healing like in this way, like it's almost like the wheel of fortune. Is it the wheel of fortune, the tarot card? So you're at the very bottom, and then you get to a point of the top, and then you're up here, but actually the top is just the bottom of the new one. So, and it keeps on going, it keeps going and going. This is kind of how I see healing. It's like you kind of get to a certain plateau, you think, oh, I'm doing all right now. And then suddenly, bang, another complex. Because the thing is with these complexes, these kind of feeling toned ideas, they don't go away. We just find new ways to deal with them. And we find new ways to deal with the triggers. So the triggers will still be there as well, but we just find new ways to deal with them. But it can be very surprising, as I've found out over the past 10 years, is that you can think that you've come so far, and then suddenly you'll be triggered again, and suddenly you're that vulnerable child again. Where the fuck did that come from? I thought I was doing well, and then you have to find new ways, and also because I guess because we keep changing, we keep growing, we keep changing. I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago. I didn't read a book 10 years ago. I wasn't interested. I was NPC. I never read a book. So yeah, it just, that's how life is. You just keep on changing, keep on growing. But life, like I've said this before about shadow work, it starts in stages and it continues in cycles, and you get up to the top and you think you're all right, but then you're just at the bottom of the next hurdle, and it keeps going.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I like the way you explain this, because it's very clear. I know, I mean, I this is how I know that we went through at a certain stage. I don't know where you at. It's very relative, depends on the people, but I even after all these years, I'm still there's no perfection. There's no it's a everyday You think about this. You talk with people. You have relation with people, and then afterward, what I do is I'm observing. I'm observing the conversation, how I reacted, how what are were my behaviors, and why and how, and then I go to all these questions.
Mm-hmm.
Was it necessary? Was it the good thing to do? And some people will say, I don't have the time to do it. But essentially, when you're at this stage, all these questions are asked in a few seconds in your brain because you're so used to auto analyze
Mm-hmm.
your behaviors. And what psychology brought into my great work is this foundation, this basic thing, this foundation for a new building, a new something. So when you're young, your parents doesn't necessarily teach you how to heal yourself mentally, emotionally, how to control these things, because there are aspects that most people don't control. There's neuroticism and things like that that people get into. They get thralled up into their emotions, and they're taking decision or acting like in a weird way. They're taking bad decisions because they take decisions upon their emotions. So this is and it's a very I like to take a rational objective. So I'm looking at the people, and I'm looking at them behave and what they're saying and how they move.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm learning a lot from that, and that's why
Yeah.
I'm having fun doing the LIBERcast, because I'm having a lot of different people with different knowledge and different perceptions about these things. But shadow work isn't talked about enough, and and for me, I pushed a lot on that.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's the first thing that we should do as humans. How let's say that you were born like this and your parent taught you these things, then good for you. But most people don't. Most people will learn it through suffering, and it's going to culminate at a time, and there's maybe the wrong decision will be taken, because when you're at the bottom of the barrel, it's hard to see the light. It's hard to see how you can get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really a we have to be like warriors, and we have to treat ourselves good. you know you
Yeah.
respect yourself, and you start to love yourself, not a
Mm-hmm.
narcissistic part aspect context. I'm talking about like real loving
Mm-hmm.
with yourself, and take care of yourself and your what you put your mental food and your emotional part and your spiritual part. And this is why it's so difficult for people to understand that, because they think it doesn't exist.
They think
They
that
don't
they think
think
that
that
self-love
spirituality
doesn't
is
exist.
important.
Sorry, did you say you think that they think that self-love doesn't exist? Is that what you're saying?
I think it's I don't think it's the way I express it. I don't think it's true. Maybe they're gonna maybe they're gonna tell it to other people by pride, by I think, but I don't think people know this way, know true love of themselves. It took
No.
me years just to being able to look at myself in the mirror,
Mm-hmm.
and really talking to myself and to my body, and realize that we're one. We're not separated. you know and
Mm-hmm.
you feel so much better
Mm-hmm.
afterward, because you give yourself time, you give yourself love, you give yourself the time to heal. And it's
Mm-hmm.
very, very powerful, because it gives you back your decision making.
Mm-hmm.
and how you can, and it's changed even afterward, the way you're seeing your relation with the others.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a really introvert person,
Mm-hmm.
but since then I was able to have kids and go out and talk to people and start the LIBERcast and talk with different people, because all that because of shadow working and
Mm-hmm.
the great work. And it's not an easy task. And the one thing that it's important that I brought up in French and in English podcast is the feminine and masculine aspect of consciousness, and
Mm-hmm.
because there's always two sides to something, you know.
Yeah.
And I think there's a few now searchers that talked about this on a deeper aspect. Mark Passios and Michael Tessarians got into it. I think this one there is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I'll say actually, because when you were talking, you kind of got me thinking as well about where we are at the moment. Like
Yes.
I think that our generation, because of what's happened over history, a lot of us haven't had the right role models. And so I kind of feel like our generation is really very lost. And actually, the next
Hmm.
generation, especially of young people, they're even more lost than we are, because now they've started saying, oh, you can be any sex you like. And, you can choose, and it doesn't matter about, your biological sex means nothing. And so these people, like this, for me personally, I feel that this is cutting us off at our very roots of who we are as men and women. And it's very, very dangerous. But that wasn't the point I was going to make. What I was going to say is that I think that there is so much damage has been done over the years to our sort of predecessors, and I think that it's our generation that really have to do the work on ourselves, for our
Hmm.
children, for our young people, and now to stand up. This is really the way that what we need to be doing, because the changes are so, they're coming so fast and they're so pernicious
Yes.
that something really has to be done, because the inner masculine and feminine is really very important, like you said. And when you've spoken about your own experience of your own healing process, and it's happened very organically, it's not like you've read a book and said, oh yeah, I need to do X, Y, and Z. It's
Hmm.
happened within you. But it sounds very much like you've got a very good balance of the two. But from what I can see at the moment, and what I've written in my animus integration workbook, was that a lot of men actually, as well as becoming conscious of their inner feminine, proclivity, their inner feminine, which is like their anima. So that would be called Carl Jung would have called it the anima. As well as becoming conscious of that and how that operates, they would also need to reclaim their masculine. And that, I think, is something that a lot of people aren't talking about. And vice versa, with the animus integration for women, that's the women's inner masculine traits and
Yes.
how they relate to men. It's important that they consciously understand what that is, and then they balance that, make sure that it's as positive as it can be, but then to reclaim the feminine. And in this society, when we have like single mothers or women who are kind of doing it on their own, or who want to become career women, who completely cut themselves off from their own feminine sort of positive feminine traits, it can't lead to, as far as I'm concerned, and from what I've seen, it can't lead to real happiness. I don't think it can, because these are parts of us that need to be expressed. And I am talking really generally here about men and women, because obviously there will be a few people who not a few, but there will be people who don't really fit into that category. And that's not to say also that all women should have children. That's really a personal choice as well. I have lots of friends who don't have children, but they are so in touch with their femininity that comes out in their sort of their nurturing, caring spirit with their friends, with their partners, with their dogs. It's still there. That inner desire to nurture in most women is there. And you see, I've been working with children for 20 years, from all different ages, from babies up until they're 18. And I've seen, and I've got a baby myself now, young girls generally mimic their mothers. They want a baby in the crib. They want to dress it up. They want to feed it, change their nappy. This is generally what most girls want to do. And some boys want to do it too, but and I'm not, obviously play needs to be sort of interchanged however they want to do it. But generally speaking, there is a difference. There's a big difference between men and women, and no one wants to talk about it. They just want to pretend like it never happened, that we're all the same. We're not the fucking same. Women's bodies are different. And also, I'm not a man, so I don't know how this works. But for a woman, I always think to myself, a man can't suffer like a woman. And probably a woman can't suffer like a man. Because during pregnancy, childbirth, postpartum, your menstrual periods, this is something that connects women to their female ancestry. So I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. And this is something inherent. I don't think that men can emulate it. Even if they get, estrogen tablets or whatever, they start growing little boobies. No, it's not the same, because women are, like they show like they show that a woman has their baby, the potentiality for their future children inside of them, and also their future grandchildren inside of them at the same time. So you can't take away from that. There's a special connection and bond there, and I feel very, very strongly about this. But So what do you think of that, about the feminine and masculine in terms of shadow work?
I consider myself well, yes, I would say I would pretend to say that I'm pretty balanced in this aspect. The action aspect, the logical aspect, and the nurturing, caring, imaginative part of the feminine are still there because I worked for it.
Yeah.
And there's plenty of negative things that we can talk about this, but I want to bring up a more constructive aspect. And there's something that it seems to be a pattern. Men tend to try to find a woman that looks like their mother. So this one thing is one of the biggest. This is the pattern I saw, and I still see today, and it tends to be true.
Okay,
I would say it's incredible.
Okay, so from my studying into like the anima and animus integration, so for a man, I'll just tell you about how this kind of works, well, how I understand it anyway. So the anima, the blueprint for any man's anima is the mother, is the female primary caregiver, and that could be mother, grandparent, whoever the main female caregiver is. This is going to be the blueprint of how he relates to men for the rest of his life, unless he becomes conscious and aware and can take back his projections and his complexes, etc. Now, if the mother was a terrible mother, generally speaking, his expectations of women unconsciously are going to be that she's the same as, that any woman that he's attracted to has got some kind of terrible aspect to her, and he will see the bad in her no matter how good she is. He will also unconsciously attract, as we all do. We all tend to attract. This has been my experience of what I've learned about through my friends and other people. We attract people who will recreate for us a very similar situation to our childhood experience, the way it feels. Maybe not the way it looks, but possibly the way it feels. So if we perhaps had a mother, say like if a man had a mother who was who would be punishing and would push him away and didn't want anything to do, was not kind of emotionally nice to him, he will also attract someone like that as well, and he will go through the whole thing again. And my theory is, and that's probably not just, I probably read it somewhere, but my theory is that we do this in order to individuate to some extent, to and also for mastery. So like if you think about like child's play, children play, they have something called mastery play, where they create a situation that they've seen before so that they can do something about it. And this happens a lot with children who have like traumatic experience. They'll play it out, and then they'll play out a different scenario, or they might play it out and make it even worse than it was, or even better than it was. But it's all that mastery. I'm in control. I'm creating this. I'm in control. And I see that also in terms of relationships. It's almost like we unconsciously, like children going into a dark forest, go and recreate all of this stuff and create it. And then it's like, oh shit, now what do I do? And then you have to kind of work through it. You have to work through yourself. What you were saying about your sort of inner feminine traits that you had to work for. Now, you don't know anything about maybe anima and animus. Sorry, you might not know much about it, but that really talks about your anima, your inner female proclivity, your inner traits. You've consciously decided that I need to, when my emotions come up, I need to express them in a safe and productive way, and I need to become more intuitive, and I'm sort of more feeling and perhaps more caring, considerate, nurturing, passive, receptive, all those kinds of sort of more traditionally and archetypally feminine traits. And so that happens a lot when a man wants to understand what is unconsciously guiding his actions, thoughts and perceptions and his life experiences. And that's the only way that he will find out, because Carl Jung says that the anima in a man will be the sort of the psychopomp, will go between the conscious and unconscious mind and bring that information. I guess if you kind of think of it in a sort of a pictorial way, this beautiful woman, the woman within you, the queen within you, I guess you need to crown her. She goes to the unconscious and she brings you information, and she becomes an inner ally. And with men, with the anima work, it's that men are trying to get clarity. This is a quote by Jung: get clarity on how he feels, and a woman is looking for clarity in how in what to think and how she thinks. So men and women in heterosexual relationships are looking for these kind of unconscious, or Jung says that this is what we're kind of looking for in each other. I think there's a book somewhere called something about the magical other, that the search for the magical other. And I haven't read the book, but I know that the premise is that we're constantly looking outside of ourselves when the inner other is inside of ourselves. And like you've said, like your anima has really taken on the role of guide and friend. And so where she may have been someone inside of you who possibly, if with an unintegrated anima, you would have been someone who would have been just attracted to women, purely physical, would have projected this image of perfection on this woman who was maybe physically beautiful, but you don't know her surname, you don't know anything about her. She could be a real bitch. She probably is. and then come the disappointments. Oh, she's not my image of perfection. She's just a bitch. Whatever. And women do the same as well. It's projection. So for an integrated anima or animus and someone who's more mature, they would take back that projection. And they will be looking at somebody more in terms of the personality, as well as maybe physical attributes. Can I get on with this person? What is this person about? What is their heart like? What are their views, their opinions? Do I really get on with them? Are we compatible? All these kinds of things. Or even not even just in a potentially intimate relationship, but just with women, just with women, that there's a respect for them. That maybe you may have had to have consciously developed within yourself, where it may not have been there before. I'm not talking about you personally, but just generally within the sort of the way that you would do that for a man.
I mean, for me, it has been to take care of myself, and really put my own being into perspective. And I was telling you earlier about getting back. You have a relationship or an interpersonal relationship with someone. You talk with someone, and then you go back and then you look at your own behavior, how you
Hmm.
respond, what the words that you took in. But I I really treat the others like I treat myself. And I came up to make peace with that, with this part of myself. And I'm very um, um, disciplinary with myself mentally
Hmm.
and emotionally. And this is why I have this stoic approach to problem solving and logical thinking and objectivity and things like that. But my emotions and my feminine part, the caring part, the imaginative, the big pattern thinking, the holistic approach to this is very my second nature.
Hmm.
I totally embrace this part in me, and this is why when I have to go through emotions, I'm doing it.
Yeah.
I don't care what people think. If I'm angry, I'm angry. If I'm sad, I'm sad. If and you this is the one part that I found interesting, because how much damage you can do when you're not aware of it.
Oh yeah.
And
And
you have
sorry, go on.
children, you have friends, you have family around you. And I'm not talking about you, Caroline, but
Mm.
this is more of a general aspect of this uh, uh, osmosis of relationship that you have in life. All these paths, these incredible synchronicities, when you're very aware and you meet people, and these people will give you a hint most of the time. And this is how I treat things. You know, I'm talking with people. People will say me things, and then sometimes I get something new. Sometimes I don't, but I still learn.
Hmm.
It's all about learning. I have this mindset of observing and uh, uh, self analyzing. And
Hmm.
this is where I have to sometimes I'm having, like, I'm not perfect. I can do mistakes, and this is where we have to, like, to be honest
Yeah.
about this. And if you have it, we have to work on it. If you have a bad habit, or you have you behave a way that it's not, like, maybe a good thing in for your relation or for yourself, you need to change it. You have
Hmm.
not maybe change it. I wouldn't take this word, maybe transform it.
Yeah.
It's like channelizing all this, and making something better, because
Hmm.
essentially we're social beings. We still need to have other people around us.
Yeah.
And you're and since my great work, I lost a lot of people.
Mm.
Because I realized that they weren't respecting me. I wasn't
Yeah.
respecting them. And it's not because I don't like them or I don't love them. It's not about us, about respect. I don't I'm not going to see people that I'm I don't have to I don't have nothing to say to them.
Hmm.
Well, it's respect.
Yeah.
And I think this is the feminine part that I love, is this self-realization.
Hmm.
And yes, you can still have a community or something like that, but not getting stuck into this trap of collectivism,
Yeah.
cults, clubs. It's everywhere. It's everywhere, and it's very, very insidious. You were talking about new age earlier, and this
Hmm.
is, like, it's bad. It's very bad when you don't have the discernment. you know you're gonna get, like, buried under lies and deceptions and you're gonna get like into a cul-de-sac. You're gonna get stuck. You know, I've seen these people. Michael Tessarian's, when he's talking about New Agers, I've seen these people.
Mm-hmm.
I've talked with them, and they're dangerous.
I think that there's a lot of ego in the whole New Age, and I think also, like, to some degree, like the shadow work as a sort of a phrase. I think it's become very, very popular, and it's not really very helpful, because I think people have kind of jumped on it, and they're not doing it the right way. They're using it to kind of glorify their own sort of ego, really.
Yes.
And they're banging the drum. And I did a lot of it. I went to like drumming circles. I'm a Reiki master, energy healing, and you buy all the crystals and you chant and all this rubbish. And there's something really not very, what's the word? No, not very true about it. It's a bit, it's all about ego, and I think you've got to be very, very careful. I'm actually very, very careful about like people who say that they can heal other people. As a Reiki master myself, like I can channel the energy and I can help and I can give it to someone else, but I'm not the healer. And I can talk to people and I can usually bring something out of them sometimes. But I'm not the healer. I'm just bringing out what's already within. Everyone can do. I can't do it for anyone. I can't heal you. I can't heal anyone. Only you can do you. I can do me. And we can help each other along the way. But what you're saying about groups happens in all groups. Happens in the truth community more than anywhere. And I was never on social media like 5 years ago. Before 2019, I wasn't on social media. I wasn't part of the gang, the group, and I don't want to be, because it's no one's fault. But I just think that whenever you have lots of people with very similar ideas, it's very easy for your idea to be wrong, to upset somebody, for someone to decide that you're not right. And there's a lot of angry people in the movement, very, very angry. That's what I've noticed, because I was on Unslaved, I did get a lot of messages and people sort of contacting me really angry about what's happening in the world. And I was like, well, I understand it. You have every right to be angry, but I can't do anything with that anger. And actually it will eat you up, unless you take action, and whatever action you decide to take is yours to decide. But that's another really important part of the healing journey is knowing when to let go of the anger and the suffering, because suffering is like bittersweet. It becomes a warm blanket. It becomes comfortable because we're so used to it. And especially anyone who's had trauma as a child, it will just be like, it's just a warm blanket for you. And then you have to think, right, so now what am I going to do? I've come to a realization for myself, actually, and that is that although shadow work becomes a way of life, you also then need to learn, what am I going to create now? Because I believe that the universe or the world or whatever you call it, I believe it's conscious. I believe that it reacts to us, and not law of attraction, but there's something else. There's something different in it. There's something that if we set our intentions and we take action in a certain direction, it will come. But it's like, how dedicated are you into taking that action? Like, you were dedicated to create your LIBERcast, and look how far you've come. But without the action and the will to want to do it, it wouldn't have happened. It came from you. You are the creator. And so this is what I see happening in my world as well. And this is, I wouldn't say the next stage, because like shadow work becomes a way of life, but it is a point that we need to get to say, okay, so where am I going now with all this information? Because I'll keep on growing as I go, but where am I going to go now? And where, and how can it get better? So it's that creative element of life, I think, is really important.
And I mean, we can talk about the masculine, the more darker aspect, like self-loathing and authoritarian like behaviors and things like that. And I mean, being a man in this world now is I mean, I don't have a problem with myself, I work on it. But wow, there's a total inversion of everything, and this is the
Yeah.
pattern that I found out because I was like, what is happening now? Men look like women look like men. They're changing everything, and the mindset. And I'm not talking physically; I'm talking mentally. Like the men now are very emotional, very like extreme emotionality. And these men are getting into spirituality, it's even worse because they're completely unbalanced on this
Hmm.
side. And the action part, the masculine part, it's taken out because of that. It's gonna be emotional thinking, and there's no emotional intelligence there. Since you need both of them to have it.
Well,
So there's the
yeah.
decision making is it's like it's bad. It's very bad. You're gonna be, and as men, you know, if we are like to confront evil, most men will not do it.
No.
They're gonna be scared. And this is the one the masculine, like the more insidious like problem we have with men today. It's the emasculination of men.
Yeah, I agree. I actually think that there's, I wouldn't, sort of maybe a war. Was there a war on masculinity and also a war on femininity as well, in its sort of right place? And I think that, I mean, as I said, I've been working with children for a very long time, and I've seen it so many times where children, boys, in school, they are feminized in school, because as soon as you see a boy who's got any kind of masculine spirit and who is in charge and in lead and can argue with an adult, actually they can state their point and they can articulate themselves, and they're strong. They just naturally, some boys, I've seen these boys, sometimes they just turn up and they're just very masculine, really in their masculine, and it's very natural, and they're just not allowed to be that they just get cut off, and they get told off, and they're not allowed to be in charge of a group. And it happens in very early on, and also probably it happens also in the home, because at the moment we have so many people, or women especially, who are sort of I guess like ultra feminist kind of types, who really don't like men very much. And really, I mean, there's this, there's a real imbalance within the animus, as far as I'm concerned.
Yes.
And I know Michael Tessarian talks a lot about that, and I did a podcast with him about something we spoke about that at some point. But there are huge problems, and one of the things that I put in my workbook was, as I said, like the reclaiming, for men to reclaim their masculine. And especially to think about some of those really positive masculine traits. And I have got a list here, and I'm going to read them out. I hope you don't mind. There's quite a lot. So for the divine masculine, I've got confidence, courage, logic and reason thinking, certainty, integrity, morality, tenacity, critical thought, harnessed aggression. That's a big one, harnessed aggression, because aggression is just such a dirty word. And I think without that aggression, a man can't go get. He can't stand up for himself. He can't, there's no power there. There's no power without aggression. But this is harnessed aggression. This isn't just go out and start hitting people, or being aggressive for no reason. It's the harness which makes it a divine trait, which makes it an important thing. So we've also got discernment, assertiveness, combative, which is also harnessed. I mean, who's going to stand up for their family? Does a woman want a man who's going to be, putting the woman out in front to fight her battles for her? I don't think so. Disciplined, self-directed, autonomous, individualized, provider, protector of one's family, someone who's honest, trustworthy, decisive, self-affirming, self-controlled, self-mastered, has leadership qualities, self-reflective, self-corrective, or self-correcting. Like you've said, you are self-correcting when you analyze what you do, what you say. Where was it coming from? What were your unconscious motivations?
Mm-hmm.
And these are really important. And these are very, these are archetypes, these are archetypal, and they're also traditional traits of the masculine. And anyone who is, I guess, a maybe lefty progressive would say that it's actually very offensive, and someone might cry from hearing me say things about the masculine. But these are the these are the archetype, and what are you gonna say about the archetype? It's inherent, built within each and every one of us from when we're born. We recognize it, and people are consciously trying to change that within us, and I think it's very, very dangerous. I think actually men and women have like we're sort of struggling as a society because we don't have a father figure, like a kind of I guess that we have a king in England. We have a king that we hate. Nobody likes him. He was crowned, and nobody liked him. So it's like we're missing that really good, positive, masculine role model. We have all these people making decisions for us in Parliament and in government. These people are crooks. These people don't care about anyone but themselves and their own pocket. So it's like where has the positive masculine gone? And it's an inside job. It starts with every man who wants to make a change to themselves, every man who's growing into the man that they have potential to be, to say, okay, so what are the positive masculine traits that I want to become? And to try and emulate that. So it's not just the men. Okay, so we also have the women as well. So we have this kind of ultra feminist movement, and they are also just as insidious towards women, actually, because they cut us off also from what we have the potential to be. And I have a list of divine feminine traits here. So we've got nurturing, passive, receptive, reflective, intuitive, loving, kind, encouraging, supportive, homemaking, even-tempered, considerate, comforting, feeling, affectionate, at ease, giving. It's that kind of providing and giving love, and it is as well. It's the traditional traits and the archetype. It can also be expressed as the high priestess, the empress, the queen, maiden, mother, crone. That's within us. That's within every woman. And so this is what we all need to get back to. It's to balance, for a woman to balance the masculine within herself, and then also to reclaim the feminine as her central point of who she is, and for the man to adopt his masculine and to reclaim it, because this is what we need to do, is to reclaim. I think this is my philosophy. This is my idea that that's the way positive we can move forward positively, I think.
And there's one aspect that I use a lot is the apophatic approach to everything, and I think we can I can really it's a really good guide when it comes to masculine and feminine qualities of consciousness. And because I'm used to this kind of language and these thoughts, but I see a lot of I can see the qualities. I can see what it does when you join the two together in one. You have this occult allegory everywhere in cinema and everywhere in the stories. The joining and of the men and the woman. And it's very powerful to know these things, because we can all relate to them. We have all these aspects inside of us at a level or another, and it's really important to be honest with ourselves, and it's not not a standard for masculine or feminine. We are all different because of our education, because of our experience, and how hard it's going to be to balance these two together. And I mean I'm using an example as myself, because the experience that I lived in my life. This is my way. And for me, what has been the big change is having children.
Mm-hmm.
Children are awesome teachers. They're teachers, and they're very bad bosses. They're gonna tell, they're gonna show you, the way. They're gonna show you how to correct yourself, because they're a reflection of ourselves.
Uh-huh.
But sometimes, they're children. They're gonna do stupid things, and this is how they are. But and I like what I like from children is their honesty.
Mm-hmm.
They're plainly honest. They're bold, and they're free. When you ask them a question, they give you the easiest answer. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you get like that. Oh my God, it's just like that.
Mm.
Or I was talking with my wife, and one of our girl came to us, and she told us like something like wise for her age. And we'll look at ourselves. Oh my God, they're getting older, and we're getting older at the same time. And
Yeah.
sometimes they put you in your place. When it's time to.
Mm.
I have three girls, and they're beautiful. They're lively. They're playing all the time, and the difference between me and before and me now is I wouldn't have the same relationship with them,
Mm-hmm.
of all the hard working that I'm doing with myself, and
Mm-hmm.
letting them be,
Yeah.
letting them make mistakes, and
Mm-hmm.
things like that. And one of the thing that I do with them is I consider like they're not mine. I mean, they're my children, but I consider them like different human beings with different needs, different way of thinking, different
Mm-hmm.
perceptions, and it's changed everything with the
Yeah.
relation. It's not always easy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're getting all up in their emotion because they're confused.
Mm-hmm.
It's our job to guide them, and
Mm-hmm.
sadly, a lot of parents don't have this baggage, so they're transferring all these inadequacies and schisms and neurotism in their children. And
Mm-hmm.
most of the time, what will happen is their children's gonna be worse,
Yeah.
because they cannot tell it. If you don't love yourself, how can you love someone else?
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't teach empathy and respect to your children, and you show them, we don't we have to let them experience life
Yeah.
and being children. What children is, it's
Mm-hmm.
playing, learning, laughing, and getting hurt from time to time, and we have
Yeah,
to let,
it's true.
you know and sometimes I'm just sitting back and look at them, and they're filling me with joy, with happiness, because I see them smiling, I see them playing and being joyful, and make it's not an egoic kind
No.
of joy. It's like genuine
Mm.
joy. This feeling you have inside of yourself. This I don't know how to explain this, because for me it's very physical. Um, so I mean,
Well,
it's already.
it's very healing as well. It's healing to give your children perhaps what you didn't have, and that's how I feel about. Well, I've got two daughters. One is 13 and one is 1.5. So there's a huge difference in their ages, and I'm kind of sort of an older mum now. I'm 46, so it's kind of I had my last child very late, but it's a lovely thing to kind of to give them the space to be who they are, and so that they don't have to kind of put walls up themselves and kind of go through the trauma that maybe that I have been through myself. And so you can see who they are for themselves as individuals. And also when you go through this kind of, when you go through trauma, you know, however bad it is, it's quite character building, you know, and especially if you can get to a point where you can sort of heal yourself through shadow work and become that self-reflective person. To be honest, it's like, well, you know, nothing comes from nothing. Like if you have to suffer to some degree to kind of get to that part of you which is kind of individuated, I guess, which is more who you currently are. And so that's maybe one way to look at it. Obviously, it's not nice to suffer, but actually there is something in legitimate suffering. Suffering is needed and required in order for us to grow. And I believe that we're here to grow. So I guess perhaps another way for us to look at our suffering, especially the suffering that happened a long time ago, was that in some way there's a gift in it somewhere. Somewhere there is. Not that it was given as a gift. It wasn't given as a gift, but there is something that we can take from it. Perhaps we can make it into a gift. And it's a different way to kind of look at it, but it's a way that gives it a bit of meaning. And life is nothing without meaning. So that's another way. But yeah, children are just they're so close to God, they will just say exactly what they think. Doesn't matter how funny, clever, silly, whatever. And they teach us also how to play again as well. That's another thing.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, I brought them to a little water place where their children can play, and they're I didn't have this chance, you know. I wasn't raised this way.
Yeah.
With freedom and honesty and genuine love. And it's not like I said, it's not always easy, but it's worth, because we're homeschooling, we're you know, we're really taking care of them, and it's a beautiful thing, you know, when you see your children growing and you're educating them, and you know it comes from like it's truth, you know, it's true love. And they're not realizing it, but you know, you tell them, you know, it's your, you have to take your responsibility, you know, from time to time, discipline, and I used to being very severe with myself, and I'm severe, but I don't want to be that severe with my children, because for me it's more, I'm more of a I'm more of a hard-headed, you know, guy. So
Can I ask you this? Do you think perhaps the way that you have been towards yourself, is that also the way that you have also been towards others? You think?
For me, it's been very different. Projecting it's not my thing, and this is I'm very honest with myself, and I'm very honest with other people, and this one there, it's about self-respect. I probably projected onto people, but it's really hard not to.
Yeah.
You know, when you're angry, when you're already angry, you know, and having this control over this part of yourself, you're transpiring it, you know. We're very vibrational beings, or emotional vibrations. So when you're getting, now I can block it, now I can like deal with psychic and energy, but before I wasn't. So I was like trampled over all the time, and people were abusing my trust and things like that. But now it's not happening anymore since years, and I feel so much better for being myself.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and not being this this psychosocial being, you know, and difference ourselves from culture, and things like that. Culture is very toxic. It's not toxic, but it's very it's mind control. You know, and it's gonna lead you everywhere but inside.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean, collectivism. You know, Michael Tessarian. I'm gonna put a little link there beside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Unslave Michael Tessarian. You know, I suggest everyone to go there. One great word ignored. There's a lot of stuff that's there about that. Michael Tessarian is fucking genius. You know, I invaluable work.
Yes,
Psychic
absolutely.
vampirism and
Yeah.
uh, uh, um, the female Illuminati, you know, and the female psychology aspect, and it's fascinating. And
It is.
I understood a lot of things because of that, because of the
Yeah.
female Illuminati and the psychology, and it's incredible, incredible work. Everyone should at least listen to at least one time. You know, psychic vampirism was like mind blowing for me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh my god, it was doors that open all the time. You know, red flags and things like that. I've seen from other people, and it was incredible, an incredible introspective work. You
Yeah.
know, I think almost all people are affected by that. So incredible, incredible work. So we
Yeah.
are at 117.
Yeah.
I want to thank you so much for being there and sharing with me. It's always a pleasure to have you. And I suggest everyone to go on the community, shadow work community on the internet. Just do the research there, and you're gonna find it. I'm gonna post it under the podcast, so you can go there. And
Yeah.
it's incredible site. Everybody should go there. Should go there and listen to it and reading it, because it's incredible. I mean, for shadow workers like me who started before, and I was like, oh my god, I missed so much thing. You know, I just bought a book from Carl Jung, Archetypes,
Oh yeah.
and what?
No, I'm just listening. Go on.
Yeah. So incredible psychologists that lived in I think it's early 90s.
Yeah. 900s. Yeah.
So incredible. So thank you everyone for listening to. You're gonna listen to it in replay, because it's recorded. So thank you for everyone that joined us, the comments and thing, and we're gonna see you real soon. Take care.
Yeah, thank you, Fred. I really appreciate your time, and thanks for being patient with me, because I know I've been trying to organise this for a long time. So yeah, I'll definitely come on and speak to you another time. Thank you.
Thank you.